The fight had been a stupid one, something about being 3 hours behind schedule. It left a bitter silence in the car that was heavier than the humid Tennessee air. Mark, gripping the steering wheel of his sedan, glanced at the GPS on his phone. A thick, red line of traffic clogged the main highway through the mountains. Beside it, a thin gray line snaked its way in parallel. County Road 34, Old Miller's Pass. "Look," he said, breaking the silence. "A shortcut. It bypasses this whole mess. We'll make up the time." Jenna, his girlfriend, looked up from her phone, her expression still annoyed. "A mountain back road. Mark, we don't know what that's like. It could be unpaved. It'll be fine," he insisted, the desire to be right overriding his caution. "It's a road trip. Let's have an adventure." Before she could protest further, he had already taken the exit, turning onto a narrow, two-lane road that was immediately swallowed by a dense canopy of trees. The air grew cooler. The sunlight became dappled and intermittent. At first, it was beautiful, a welcome escape from the interstate's monotony. The road was paved, winding lazily through the hills. After about 20 minutes, they passed a distinctive landmark, an old, sky-blue Ford Falcon from the '60s, completely rusted out and half consumed by the roots of a massive oak tree. A thick vine had grown through its shattered windshield. "Ha, look at that," Mark said. Jenna just nodded, unimpressed. They drove on. The silence returned. Another 15 minutes passed. The road twisted and turned, but the scenery remained stubbornly the same, an endless tunnel of green trees. "This is taking longer than I thought," Jenna said, her voice betraying a new note of unease. "We'll be back on the highway any minute now," Mark said, though he was starting to feel a prickle of doubt himself. He rounded another sharp bend and his stomach dropped. Up ahead, on the right side of the road, was the sky-blue Ford Falcon, rusted and half swallowed by the oak tree. "No," Jenna whispered, sitting bolt upright. "No, that's not possible. It's just another old car," Mark said, his voice strained. "Lots of people abandon cars out here." But he knew it was a lie. The pattern of rust on the hood, the specific way the vines snaked through the windshield, it was identical. He pressed down on the accelerator, a knot of panic tightening in his chest. He drove faster now, whipping the car around the winding curves. 10 minutes later, he slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop. They were there again. The blue car, the oak tree. They were in a loop. The immediate, frantic attempts to escape only solidified their prison. Mark spun the car around, driving back the way they came, but the road never led to the highway intersection. It just stretched on, a mirror image of the road ahead, until they inevitably found themselves approaching the Blue Falcon once more, now from the opposite direction. He took a dirt turnoff, a muddy track that plunged into the woods, only for it to curve back on itself after a mile, spitting them out onto the familiar asphalt just behind the cursed landmark. The GPS was a useless brick, showing their cars a blinking dot in a vast empty green space labeled unmapped. Their phones had no signal. The loop wasn't just the car. They started noticing other landmarks, frozen in their repeating tableau. A small whitewashed wooden church, its steeple bare and its front door missing, leaving a perfect black rectangle. A roadside produce stand, its bins still filled with what looked like fresh, bright red apples, but with no one tending it. And a strange, crooked mailbox with the name SPETROV hand-painted on the side. The car, the church, the stand, the mailbox. Every 10 to 15 minutes, the cycle would repeat. The sun began to set, casting long, distorted shadows through the trees. Their bickering had evaporated, replaced by a shared, silent terror. It was during their 8th or 9th pass of the church that they saw it. Another car, a vintage station wagon, the kind with wood paneling on the side, was driving slowly in the opposite direction. A wave of relief washed over them. They weren't alone. Mark flagged them down, but the other car didn't stop. As it passed, they saw the occupants clearly in the dying light. A family. A father with a grim, set jaw stared straight ahead. A mother in the passenger seat was silently weeping, her face pressed against the glass. In the back, 2 young children stared out at them, their eyes wide and vacant, the terror so profound it seemed ancient. They passed by and were gone. Why didn't they stop? Jenna cried. 10 minutes later, as they rounded the bend before the produce stand, they saw the station wagon again, coming towards them. The same family, the same silent, looping torment. They were trapped too. The road was not a loop, it was a gallery. Over the next few hours, they saw other cars, other ghosts. A lone man in a 1980s convertible, his face a mask of frantic rage. a young couple in a beat-up pickup truck who looked just as confused and scared as they were. Each vehicle was a separate exhibit, trapped in its own eternal, repeating journey along the same haunted stretch of road. They were the newest additions to the collection. Their fuel light had been on for what felt like an eternity, yet the car kept running, another small, cruel violation of the laws of nature. The road wasn't just a physical place, it was a system, a trap, and its rules were not their rules. Hope of escape was a fantasy. There was only the road. "I can't do this anymore," Mark said, his voice cracking. The repetition, the faces of the other trapped souls, the relentless green tunnel of trees, it had ground his spirit down to a raw nerve. "The next time we pass the Falcon, I'm not turning, I'm going straight." "What?" "Mark, no. We'll crash." Jenna screamed. "We're already crashed, Jen," he yelled back, hysteria coloring his voice. "We're dead and we're in hell. At least this is a different choice. At least it's an end." He didn't wait for her reply. As the rusted blue car came into view for the dozenth time, he wrenched the steering wheel, taking them off the asphalt. The car slammed through a wooden guardrail, the sound of splintering wood deafening, and plunged into the dark, dense undergrowth. The world became a violent, tumbling chaos of green and black, ending with a final, bone-jarring impact that sent them into darkness. Mark woke to the sound of birdsong. Sunlight streamed through the shattered windshield. He was bruised, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but he was alive. Jenna was unconscious beside him, but breathing. He looked around. Their car was crumpled against a thick sycamore tree at the bottom of a shallow ravine. Above them, he could see it, the asphalt of Old Miller's Pass. They had done it. They had broken out of the loop. He managed to get Jenna out of the car, and half carrying her, he scrambled up the muddy embankment back to the road. The air felt different here. The oppressive silence was gone, replaced by the normal sounds of a forest. They were free. He started walking, supporting Jenna, heading in the direction he hoped would lead back to civilization. After a few minutes, they heard a car approach from behind. A modern minivan slowed as it passed them. The family inside stared at the disheveled, bloody couple with expressions of pity and concern. "Should we stop?" the wife asked the husband. "No way," the husband replied, shaking his head and accelerating. "No signal out here. We'll call for help when we get back to the highway." They looked really spooked. As their minivan continued down the road, the husband glanced at his wife. "That's the second weird thing on this road. Did you see that old blue car a mile back, the one stuck in the tree? Creepy." The minivan rounded the next bend and disappeared from sight. Mark and Jenna continued their slow, painful walk down the endless road, not yet realizing that they hadn't escaped the loop at all. They had just changed their role in it. They were no longer the ones driving past the landmarks. They'd become one. A new, tragic sight for the next souls who made the wrong turn on Old Miller's Pass.